Hello YouTubers, my name is Hunter Galley and I'm here to explain a little bit about a topic I think is very important. Now obviously if you look at my apparel, I'm a big superhero fan, and so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. I believe one thing is many people are saying comic books are dead, that there's not much to them, that they kind of go off on their own world, and in some cases it's true. But I think there's a case of realism in comics. I think many times you can see aspects of the real world within them. Like, there's so many examples, and we'll get to some of them a little bit. But first, I kind of want to start off with a little interview. I tried to look up some people who knew this information off the top of their heads, some superheroes themselves, but I could not find them. They were busy off saving the world or doing whatever superheroes do. So I decided on the next best thing, a geek as well as myself. So I guess the first thing we're going to start off with is an interview. I have with me today Max Tate, a fellow UPJ student. Thank you for coming, Max.
No problem.
Can you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
My name is Maximilian Tate. I'm a junior here at UPJ studying mechanical engineering technology.
Nice. So, to begin, do you read Marvel comics?
Yes.
Alright, so to put it into perspective, about how many comics have you read? A few, dozens, you have a huge collection.
Oh, I do have a small collection, but if you go by titles, I've read about 20 or 30.
Okay, nice. Do you know the general idea of Marvel Comics, like some of the main plot points, like what they incorporate into their comics, their ideals?
Yes.
Okay. So the main question I want to ask you, and the audience wants to know, is do you believe that Marvel and other comic companies use realism in their comics?
Yeah, totally.
Do any examples come to mind? Like, points?
Well, minorities is a big thing, and the way they represent them. One example that a lot of people will probably know is the X-Men, how they're mutants, and the government basically persecutes them for being mutants. There's also a series called The Runaways, which is about sons and daughters of villains, supervillains, and they band together, run away from their families, and create their own little family. There's a lot of stories like that.
All right, nice. Do you know of any other comics that like used big issues? Like, has there ever been any comic that stuck out to you that was something straight out of the real world?
Yes. I'm trying not to go to DC here, but stay in Marvel.
All right.
Captain America. At the time when Watergate was a big thing, the big thing was being for America. It was such a scandal that he, in the comics, actually took away his American flag on his costume and became a nomad and claimed no country as his own, and he roamed the world, just helping out everybody.
Very interesting. Well, I think that's all the questions that I need, so thank you once again.
Yep.
So this first example is of a Captain America comic from 1941 featuring his first appearance. What I think is many people recognize this comic is because it shows Captain America blatantly punching Hitler in the face. Now this is from one of the first comics Marvel ever created. It was made by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. But many people do not recognize is that they created Captain America in response to World War II. Both Jack Kirby and Joe Simon were of Jewish descent and felt very strong about what was going on in World War II and what the Nazis were doing to the Jewish people overseas. So they wanted to create something as a symbol against this oppressive nature, and that became Captain America. He was a representation of the American dream and what America stood for in the war. And also just this comics idea related to the time era of patriotism, and there's even reports of soldiers during the war being encouraged by these comics. While Captain America was a literal representation of World War II and patriotism, which is really hard to miss considering he's wearing an American flag, the next characters that represent a cultural idea that's a little more discreet. This is the team known as the X-Men. They were created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee in 1962, and were simply intended just to be superheroes and nothing deeper. Yet they evolved into a symbol of diversity and the hope of tolerance and equality. Now, fans constantly state how the X-Men can represent any minority group that faced tribulation, whether it be through differences such as race, religion, sexuality, or any other belief issues, because of the trials the X-Men face in their comic series. Now, I chose this picture above for a reason that it was created after a short hiatus for the X-Men. This team is unique because each member is a nationality beyond American, such as Wolverine being from Canada, Storm from Africa, and Colossus from Russia. Having a team of immigrants emphasizes the point of equality, and each character also faces the challenge of being in a new land, which fans can possibly relate to. Throughout the course of their comic line, the X-Men have faced struggles from the government and other mutant-hating groups because they are mutants. And I believe many fans relate to this through persecution through different reasons. Now, it is apparent that the Marvel Universe is a reflection of the real world, with many of the superheroes living in this city of New York. So when an event such as 9/11 occurs, they are, of course, to mention it. Marvel themselves were affected by this because their headquarters is within New York City, and they wanted to show that their characters were even affected by this catastrophic event. Many people were in shock whenever 9/11 occurred, and there was just a haunting stillness that occurred right after it. Marvel wanted to incorporate this in their comics to show that they were affected by it as well, and that their favorite characters were. As seen in this comic, Spider-Man is in total shock as well. He is panicking about what is happening and trying to comprehend how it could happen that many people were killed and injured in this action. Now, my final picture, as seen above, is one that I take really to heart because it's from my favorite comic line that Marvel has ever done. It's from the plotline Civil War, which many of you might be hearing about now since they reveal that Captain America 3 will be called Civil War. I really enjoyed how this storyline was written, and the idea of the conflict between heroes was exploited, as we see Captain America facing Iron Man in a battle over a registration act, which, to quote shortly, is that every superhero must be registered by the government and reveal their identities. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is it could represent something about the US government itself. In this case, Iron Man will be representing liberals with his strive to advance in technology and advancing the country as a whole. Captain America counter-represents conservatives with his tendency to keep things as they are and his appreciation of older American values. But in the comics, the split between heroes led to no progress and actually harmed society. While not confirmed, this could represent the idea that constant conflict in Congress only causes harm to America and prevents progress.
Alright, so that pretty much wraps up my points on this topic. I just want to thank everybody who was involved with this, first of all. Thank you to campus minister at UVJ, Brad Dayton. He helped me out with a lot of filming and stuff. Thank you to Jocelyn Hartman. This is her camera that we use. Thank you to Aaron Bruce, who was a photographer as well for this. Thanks to Max Tate, another student here who was in the interview. Also want to thank the chapel where we use House of Jesus. Just he's an awesome guy. And also just thanks to everybody who's watching this. And keep it real.